So, Elden Ring finally exists. And now that I've rewatched the trailer 100 times, I think I'm rather excited to just do a quick analysis of it to generally just give my thoughts on everything that was shown. And I will be throwing out quite a few wildcard theories here and there, just bear with me on that. I'm not expecting some of these things to actually be the case. But it's just me in full hype mode trying to get as excited as possible because this game looks incredible. Anyway, let's just dive right into it. This game is going to be the best thing ever. I'm very excited.
The Tarnished.
I think it's safe to say that's going to be our lady for this game, or Maiden in Black, Firekeeper, whatever. Emerald Herald. This is going to be the one.
Once lost.
God, that thing looks incredible.
The Golden Order is broken.
This place looks cool. That's something I'm very excited about right there. Granted, I could be saying that for the entire trailer and it would be true. Oh, man.
Foul tarnished. In search of the Elden Ring.
Look at that! Look at that stab. And then the riposte. It's. This dude looks really cool. Like all these light projectiles he's throwing in that hammer.
They will fight. And they
there she is
die.
again. Woo!
An unending curse.
Get the Bonfire reference in there. There's Berserk, literally. And what appears to be summoning. Of course there's dragons here. Only now the dragons are the ones throwing around lightning.
Is a champion or a lord.
There she is from the first trailer. She looks even more badass here.
A lowly tarnished. Playing as a lord. I command thee now.
Got a knight there that looks badass. I mean, that's just... I think it's safe to say that's just Irthyll. Some sorceries that look sick. This part interests me a lot as well. I mean, those things, those weird machines.
Brandish the Elden
A bit of a
Ring.
boss fight against the king here.
For all of us.
And then whatever that thing is at the end there on his arm. Yeah. So, let me just pull out my little notepad here. Because there were a bunch of things I jotted down. There it is. So, for one thing, the new armor set looks dope. Like, by that I mean the new poster armor set looks amazing. This might be my favorite one, actually. Out of any of the modern From Software titles, this one's kind of amazing. Look at that mask on the helmet and like the flowing hair coming out from underneath. Just like the general design of the armor looks gorgeous. And it's still simple though. That's the thing. It's still simple, but it feels different than any other like generic fantasy knight armor. And it's like a combination of all the different designs they've done, in a way. It's kind of cool. And that's kind of a running trend throughout this whole thing. Let's see here, what else? I kind of mentioned it for a second, but this lady here, who appear like, I would guess that she is going to be like our maiden type character for this game. Yeah, there she is. So I'm hoping she'll be interesting, and I'm kind of curious to see how exactly she's going to operate. Like, is she going to be traveling alongside us, or like, are there going to be specific locations where we can meet up with her? Or I don't know, maybe she'll just be the story exposition NPC, something like that. No idea. Like, really, this is just a fantastic gameplay trailer, but it doesn't directly tell us anything about who these characters are going to be or any of that. But yeah, I have a feeling she's probably going to be our maiden type character for this game, especially considering the fact that I think she is the narrator for the first half of this. So yeah, safe to say she's probably going to be pretty important, and I'm excited to see how she's going to play. And I hope that she has some cute interactions when you perform gestures in front of her, if that's even going to be a thing in this one. Because I loved that trend that was started by Bloodborne. It was so good. But anyway, let's see here. What's next on the list? Oh yeah, this massive tree of light looking thing, that is gorgeous, and I'm very curious to see like what's going to be the story reason for that. Like, maybe this thing is kind of the source of whatever decay is inflicting the world in this game, or something. What else we got here? I mean, environments are gorgeous as always. That kind of goes without saying. Let's see. I like this little dude over here. I like this little dude right here on the ledge. He looks funny. This old shaman dude hanging out in the swamp. Golden Order. Maybe that's what that emblem is all about. And then, yeah, just traversing environments is going to feel amazing in this. This trailer gives me so many Breath of the Wild vibes. Ah, yes, this. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, this guy right here. It almost looks like there's some kind of giant castle on top of his back. Like, hold on, let me... Hang on. Let me see if I can get this to line up right. Yeah, like, it almost looks like there's walls up there at the very top. And, like, pillars or something. So, I'd be curious to see if that's maybe a location you can reach. Perhaps with the horse somehow, or... I don't know, something like that. This whole thing right here, this whole sequence with the mounted combat and, like, this caravan out in the middle of the plains. I have a feeling this is going to be kind of their way of doing, like, the traditional open world, quote-unquote, random encounters. A bit like how Skyrim just has, like, a endless number of generic fetch quests that you can pick up off of NPCs, or the way there's, like, the various bokoblin camps scattered around Breath of the Wild, or any of that sort of thing, really. I think this is going to be the equivalent for Elden Ring, if I had to take a guess. Just based on the fact that it's, like, just this random group of enemies out in the middle of a field. Like, it could very well be a system of, like, oh, defeat these enemies, collect whatever resources they have, and then maybe there's some kind of treasure inside that caravan that you can obtain. I don't know. Upgrade materials, perhaps. Something. I don't know. None of us know, really. But it's always fun to theorize, and I have a feeling that's what this is going to be. And then this, our first taste of mounted combat, which has me extremely excited. Mainly because I'm very curious to see how all the other weapons are going to play. Like, can you imagine, like, using some kind of polearm while you're riding around, and it's just like, ooh, you're literally jousting your enemies with just, like, some long spear. Like, especially, it'd be weird to see any of the heavier weapons, whatever they'll be like in this game, Like if you have some kind of battle axe or warhammer, like how is that going to feel? Is it going to be really slow, like, or is it just going to have insane amounts of impact when you just ram into enemies? I don't know. It'd be fun to see. That's definitely something I'm looking forward to with this. Once again, also another amazing looking shot of that armor. Like, can I just gush about this armor forever? I am so excited. Because usually I actually generally like the main armor sets in each Souls game. So, like, you know, the Elite Knight set in Dark Souls, and especially the Faram set in Dark Souls 2 was a big, big favorite of mine for a long time. And just, once again, area designs, very much, like, you can see, this is FromSoft. This is absolutely From Software. Like, look at this chamber right here, come on. And, like, whatever that weird giant face on the ground is. Something that I am kind of curious about, it almost looks like it's, like, literally skin that has been peeled off of some giant creature. And, like, you can see there's, like, almost those tendrils down there, kind of around where the ladder is. Like, it looks like there's tendrils coming out from underneath. So, was this some, like, weird giant Lovecraft monster? I don't know. That could be cool. Also, Pot Boys! The boys! Oh, I love these dudes. Everyone loves these dudes, and it makes me very happy. I'm excited to see what they're going to be like in game. And I hope that they are just the most nothing enemies possible, so that we don't have to kill them. Like, I hope they can't even fight you. Or, on the contrary, I hope they're the most dangerous enemies in the game. Because that would be equally fantastic. And then there it is. So, this scene right here, this sequence, is the embodiment of what this game is to me. So far. Giant horrific monster, very From Software. Especially, like, you know, Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3. This is a very Bloodborne looking creature. Especially the face. Like, that face looks like one of the Waxmen. It's like a Waxman combined with, like, one of the creepy monstrosities that you see in Dark Souls 3. And this stab, look at this stab right here. That is straight out of Dark Souls 3. Now, that slash, on the other hand, but that riposte, this riposte right here, is like, yeah. That sequence right there is like, this is the next evolution of Souls. Like, that's what this game is. And it's so exciting. Now, this interests me, and it's kind of going to be another thing, where I feel like each of the bosses shown in this trailer might have something, maybe has something to do with that first trailer that we saw way back when. Because I think that first trailer that we saw, like, years ago now, I want to say that that was actually the opening cutscene for the game. And all those characters that we saw were going to be people we would encounter throughout the story. So this giant monster dude, that hammer right there, that hammer of light, could, like, it makes me almost think of the blacksmith from that first trailer when they were smashing, presumably, the Elden Ring. Because it seems to be a similar shape to that hammer, but there's another character later in this trailer who also could fit the bill. But we'll get there when we get there. Anyway, this as well. I'm just rambling, but that magic activation, it just sort of happens. Like, and that sword doesn't look particularly special or anything. It looks like the generic longsword of this game. And yet he's able to just immediately cast, like, this I have the power thing. So that almost makes me curious, how is spellcasting going to work this time around? Like, is it going to require a catalyst of any kind, or are there specific spells that are going to be, like, weapon enhancements that do things like that? I don't know. But it would be very cool to see. Like, look at that. It just immediately, he casts a spell and has this blade of light. There she is again. This is another, so this is first, well, not even the first at this point, really. This is another Wildcard Theory. So you see those hanging corpses? One of them looks particularly armored to me. And that makes me almost want to assume, is this going to be like another type of bloodstain that you'll see on the map? Like, is this going to be some type of way of tracking fallen players? Because there is going to be a multiplayer mechanic. We'll get there when we get there. But this game does have a multiplayer mechanic. And it makes me curious, like, oh, when you're online, are those hanging corpses replaced with those of other players who have died recently? Because if that's the case, that is amazing. I know Sultan Sanctuary did something like that in certain areas. Like, I think the entrance of the Village of Smiles has, like, a gallows where there's a bunch of, it'll just take other players' characters and hang them there. And there it is. Which, that also makes me, that horse jump right there. This makes me think that we're going to get various sort of special abilities on the horse, perhaps, that let us interact with the map and kind of access new areas this way. And there we go. We have a dismounting attack, which is quite fancy. That flip right there, once again. I keep drawing comparisons, and it always feels shitty to do that, like, the whole, like, hey, I'm just going to compare this to a bunch of other stuff that already exists, but it's also by the same developer, so it kind of makes sense in a way. But that flip that he did with the greatsword right there, that flip is very similar to a greatsword in Dark Souls 3 that I absolutely adore. So if I get my hands on that curved sword, I'm probably going to use it for at least a little while. And there's our necessary reference to Dark Souls right there. Just guys sitting in a bonfire. A part of me wants to say that this could very well just be a gag that they're doing, like, hey, look, he's sitting at a bonfire. But, I mean, hey, it very well could be a mechanic that there will be rest points that you can find around the map in the form of those fires. Also, just a never-ending stream of thoughts coming out of my face, eh? Guts. Literally, that's just guts. Tell me that is not literally, that is literally guts. That's a wolf knight hunched over on a pillar with, like, berserk armor looking type crap on, yeah. There's guts, literally. There's literally guts, and there it is. This, what I was going to talk about. Multiplayer, for sure. Like, that was a dude summoning phantoms to come and help him. So, this begs the question, how is the multiplayer going to work? Because all the other Souls games, of course, had, like, segmented areas that you had to stay within when you were doing anything online. Since this is one big open map, it makes me want to assume that those kind of restrictions won't be in place. Meaning, hey, we could very well have a game where you can just run around the whole open map together until your phantoms die. Or until you die. Like, this could lend the way to some really fun multiplayer, I think. Far more than any other game in the from Software ever. I'm quite excited for the multiplayer this time around. Also, it's my favorite word this time. This guy, this dragon right here, like, tell me this is not just From Software embodied in an image. A multi-winged stone dragon that catches lightning. Speaking of, this lightning is like almost the exact same motion as lightning stake, which is, a miracle from a previous game. So you have a dragon literally using lightning stake, which is pretty cool. I'm into that. That's awesome. And then a fun detail of the horse combat right there. The horse jumping. And not just jumping, double jumping. So clearly mobility is going to be a big part of when you're riding around on your... Not even really a horse, it's like some kind of deer... bull. It's a weird horse. It's a weird fantasy bullshit horse. And I love it. It's super cool. So yeah, it's clearly going to have a lot of great mobility options, and it's probably going to be vital for encounters like when you're fighting a dragon of this scale. And there's Guts again. Literally, look at this dude. Look at this like berserk armored beast man with like red energy flames shooting off of him. Like, this game is more berserk than any other From Software game, and I love it. It's so good. There she is. There's the queen. There's the queen of the first trailer, the cool redhead Valkyrie lady. Once again, another thing that's kind of reinforcing, hey, a lot of the stuff we saw in that first trailer could very well be implying that that was the intro, and the characters that we were seeing there are going to be the bosses that we fight. So it makes me very curious, actually, that everything in that intro could very well be our introductions to all the boss fights. But anyway, yeah, just based on this setting that she appears to be in, like this forest area, I have a feeling she's going to have one of the stronger boss fights throughout the game. Like, just based on the cool design, the environment looks gorgeous. I think she's going to be very cool. Oh, and another detail. I've kind of just cast my notes aside, and I'm just saying what I think as I see it. So you can kind of see under her hair there, just a little bit, that her face appears to be kind of melting. Or at least it's at the very least burned in some way or another. And we did see traces of that in the old trailer too. Which further pushes that I think this game's whole, like, major thing is that, like, the world is decaying. And, like, based on the fact that she has, like, this mechanical arm here. And another thing that I'll point out later when we get to it. That could be a major element of the game's story and setting and everything. Also, that knight looked very Souls, and I like it. Here he is. This is kind of the sticking point of what I've been talking about. Look at that. Look at that dude. Oh, this... I'll get to this thing in a sec. Let me go right back to this guy. So, I have a feeling, and this is kind of another wildcard theory that is probably not true, but could also totally be true. We'll see, I guess, in January. I have a feeling this is the king from the very beginning of that first trailer, way back when. Because there was, like, that scrawny-looking king, and there was, like, all the arms reaching out, and he was sticking his arm into a larger, more, like, muscular and vital-looking limb. And, like, wearing it. And then, based on the fact that we have, like, this weird, pale king who's, like, appears very old, and he's just covered in all these extra arms, like... And this shot right here, like... He is wearing the corpses of, like 100 dead guys. That is super cool. And, like, the crown is similar, too. I think this is the king from the beginning of the very first trailer. Which is quite exciting, let me just say. Because, once again, that pushes that, hey, all that stuff we saw in the intro, we're probably going to be fighting all those dudes. And they looked really cool. Which, that's gonna be interesting. I'm excited. Anyway, this dude, he's doing some kind of Dark Wraith grab. And he has that flat top greatsword. I put in my notes, I just put Dark Wraith Gale. And I mean, hey, am I that far off? Am I that far off? He's got the Executioner's Blade. He's got kind of this old armor with a pointy helmet. He's got red energy particles. Oh, there we go. There's something I was curious about. So there's kind of our first instance of a great hammer, it appears. You can kind of see it through the flames just a bit. Well, let me scroll it back a few seconds. Yeah, that appears to be some kind of great hammer weapon, which is exciting. It looks really nice, considering most of the time great hammers in From Software games just end up being big sticks of wood. It's cool to see one that's actually like a big steel hammer. And whatever this thing is, this thing looks a bit silly, but I also kind of love it. Okay, look at this great sword this knight's wielding. I want to use that. That looks amazing. What else? Oh yeah, this giant. This giant looks really cool. I like his staff. I hope I can get that in some form or another. This right here. This shot. Tell me right now. Look me in the face. Hold on. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Tell me. Right? Tell me. Tell me this is not just... This is literally Irthyll. Look at that. Look at that. Look at Irthyll here. Come on. I'm not crazy. Am I? Look at that window. Look at that window on the cathedral there. This is Irthyll. Look at the tops of the buildings. This is Irthyll and Orlando. Like... This is an amalgamation of every Soulsborne game, and I love it. It's perfect. Oh yeah, and there we go. Right as I'm saying, this is an amalgamation of every Soulsborne game. We have this knight doing Sekiro's stealth mechanics. Also, this sword spear weapon they're using here with like the magic effect on it. That's another weapon that I'm very interested in trying out when the time comes. Because that looks very much up my alley. As does this giant, cosmic death beam. That's pretty cool, too. Oh, this thing. I am so excited to fight this thing when the time comes. Giant, flaming blue, Windigo-looking, like, deer monster. In, like, a massive cavern filled with blue flames. And, like, it flies around, like... This is a cool-looking boss fight, and I'm totally excited to fight this thing. Also, hey, look at this, hold on. This guy here, he's got not knives, yeah, he's got claw weapons. So claw weapons are back, which to me implies fist weapons in general are going to be back, which makes me hope that they have a really fun moveset this time around. Now, this section right here, this part of the video, intrigues me quite a bit. Those NPCs we were seeing there. I'm very curious if this is kind of the game's quote-unquote covenant leaders, in a sense. Because, like, we have some kind of occult-looking figure here who, like, wearing a mask. So we've got, like, that. There's this lady right here, this queen, and her knight. And there's, like, all these red candles. So clearly they have a theme going on. And then we have, like, this scholar dude with, like, a crown and some kind of masked helmet. Either this is going to be, like, our home base, and these are various NPCs who just hang out there. Or these could very well be whatever kind of faction leaders we have this time around. Which, considering the setting and, like, how vast the world is, it makes me curious if there's going to be more kind of, like, story importance for those kinds of groups. Could be interesting to see. That'd be kind of funny if there was some kind of, like, territory claiming mechanic with all the various online factions. That would actually be really fun, especially with, like, the big open, considering how potentially open the multiplayer could be. I have a feeling that would be really exciting. But anyway, that's all theories. Here's some weird enemies. Giant hand monster. This thing, on closer inspection, you can see it's some kind of cart, but it has eyes, which it's weird to me. Because, like, initially I was like, oh, this is some kind of siege weapon. It's like, no, this could very well just be some kind of weird automaton or it's like a person inside this giant, like, flaming cartwheel of death. It's unnerving, to say the least. Like, this game has some spooky-looking enemy designs here and there. Now this interests me. This guy right here, this Viking dude with, like, all the braids and the cool beard. I have a feeling this, actually, like that boss I mentioned before who had, like, the big golden hammer of light that he attacked with. I think when I said that was the blacksmith, I think this might be that blacksmith from the old trailer. Potentially. Granted, that blacksmith also looked very young and kind of effeminate, so I don't think it's this guy, but it could be. Now this is intriguing, right here. We have some weird giant hand covered in flames, and then just a naked dude. Which, I don't know, it's interesting to me. Like, is this going to be the intro of the game, perhaps? Also, this, hold on, that, it's only there for like a second. This guy, this Valkyrie Knight here. This actually kind of goes against one of my previous thoughts, unfortunately. Because you see this knight right here next to this queen. This knight right here looks very, like, eerily similar to that other one. Which, either that means these are just going to be some kind of enemy we fight later on, or maybe if you oppose that queen, you have to fight this guy eventually. Which, if that's the case, that would be quite interesting. And I am expecting, considering George R.R. Martin is involved here, I'm expecting there to be some, like, you know, fantasy political intrigue. Like, why else would you bring him on here? You know, like, if he's if he's helping write the story, there's gonna be some, like, fantasy politics going on between different kingdoms. And then, yeah, just the boss fight against the king. And that's the trailer. Oh, and then there's the last little bit. With whatever that is. Now, considering earlier, when the king first popped up, he does appear to be caressing the head of a dragon. So, is there going to be something where, like, you can take on the flesh of other living beings and then claim its power for yourself, perhaps? Or, at the very least, that's a thing in the story. Also, there's a cool-looking jump attack right there. But yeah, considering he now has a giant dragon head on his arms, his pile of arms that are attached to his arm, like, is that something that he is capable of? Also, I hope this is the box art. This would be a glorious looking box art, even though I'm going to be getting it on PC, which means I won't really have a box for it. But wow. Anyway, now that I've ranted for, what is that, a half hour? Wow, over. Almost 40 minutes of ranting about Elden Ring. I definitely want to cut this down, at least a little bit, I think. Maybe. I don't know. I might. But yeah, ranting about Elden Ring for 40 minutes. I'm very excited for this game, to say the least.